Act 0, The Pulse. Part 1, The Activator. 3:12 a.m., October 31st, 2020, deep in the Russian wilderness. A hooded man stands in the deep snow, accompanied by a tall, black-haired woman in a dark, slim suit, and a short, armored man with a scaly arm, fiery eyes, and even fierier fists. The woman's red eyes stare at the cabin behind them through her wooden masquerade mask, and the short man juggles the freshly stolen iron. The hooded man gives the short one a curt nod. Time to get moving. The short man uses the iron to make a ring of flame. While a portal forms in the ring, the cloaked man summons a scythe. Vines twist around the snazzily dressed woman's arms as she clenches her fist, and the short, armored man places the iron in his bag as he sets his hands ablaze. The other two step through the portal as a well-charged energy blast flies over the hooded man's shoulder. He turns around just in time to see the girl being restrained and brought back inside by one of her fathers. Just as well. 3:13 a.m., October 31st, 2020. The National Museum of Magic, Los Angeles. It's nearing the end of a long, boring shift when, with no warning, a violently spinning portal forms before the two security guards as three people step through. So much for the impassable defenses. In the second or two between the trio's arrival and their attack, all five people in the room come to the same conclusion. Three powerful, well-prepared raiders versus a couple minimum-wage, magicless security guards with some laser guns. The battle will be over in seconds. 3:13 a.m. and 24 seconds. The hooded man stands over the switch, staring. Then, with one sudden movement, he lifts the bar, and everything goes white. But just for a few moments. Collapsed against the wall, feeling kind of intangible and like he's been struck by 1,000 bolts of lightning, the man catches a brightly glowing set of purple knight armor darting away, almost obscured by the blinding blue light coming from his skull and crossbones earrings. Act 0, Part 2, The Prepared. She stands waiting on the cool rooftop. Fiddling with her staff of twisted wood, she's beginning to doubt her informant for the first time in a while. Her doubts are quickly shown to be foolish, though, for suddenly the shriek of an alarm comes from the museum she's been watching for hours. Ah, yes, it is time. When the white, crackling wave finally washes over her, she welcomes the energy soaking into her soul as it fills to bursting while all the nearby plants swell. Act 0, Part 3, The Strong. You bolt upright as all the windows in your apartment shatter. For just a moment, all you see is a blinding white, but your eyes soon begin to readjust, leaving your room soaked in pink? You try to survey your room, but every time you look somewhere new, you see something change in the corner of your eye. It takes a couple seconds of frantically looking around for you to realize it's because the intense pink light is coming from your eyes. You leap out of bed, forgetting about the glass, but when you land, you're completely fine. You shrug off this odd detail for now and dash to the bathroom. Or you try to do these things, but as you're trying to push off a wall as you run, your shimmering hand goes straight through. You think you understand what's going on pretty well now. You yank your hand out of the hole before gently returning to your room. Kneeling by your nightstand, you stare at the newly deep red sky as you dictate this message to your girlfriend. Babe, we have a situation. Act 1, Survival. Part 1, The Rogues Gallery. The Pulse. The wave of pure magical energy that washed over the entire planet, soaking into everything indiscriminately. For most of those with weak souls in Western America and parts of Canada, though, what happened could less be described as soaking and more as complete vaporization. As for those who remain, their overloaded souls cause their powers to mutate and begin to take over their bodies. Once it begins, it's only a countdown to their inevitable demise, unless they can find a way to get rid of the unusable amount of energy. Kakarats. 75 attack, 33 defense, 678 health, type enemies. Kakarats still spawn in gardens and farms with enchanted soil, but the thing is, nearly all soil is enchanted soil after the pulse. Not to mention, they've magically mutated so that they're larger, stronger, and have gained the powers to heal each other and do some low-level earthbending. Along with the occasional Vegthulu, Kakarats are spawning at greater rates than usual around the Los Angeles sinkhole, with no gardens in sight. Even stranger, these ones are friendly. They'll try to protect you as they usher you towards the sinkhole. Knights of the Final Time Period, Rogue. Type, mini-bosses. Rebelling against the very foundation the organization was built upon, these traitorous knights seek to end the cycle rather than help it along. This is foolish, not only because ending the cycle is impossible, but if they were to succeed, they'd be preventing the rise of the true knight, the organization's very figurehead. They're only aware of one of these things, though. Skeleton Warriors. 127 attack, 82 defense, 384 health, type, apocalyptic enemies, and mini-bosses. The Pulse-Scathe Skeleton Warriors boosted stats and even greater spawn rates than they normally have on Halloween, but these upgrades are nothing next to the mutation. The costumes they can spawn in on Halloween used to be purely cosmetic, but now they completely control what they do and how they fight. Ninja and Princess. Both provide agility and some skill in some type of martial arts, but the ninja comes with fake yet somewhat high damage katanas or throwing stars, while the princess fights with things they find lying around or nothing. Witch/Wizard. Comes with a wand or staff that can shoot barrages of magical attacks. Witch, version 2. Comes with a staff that shoots fewer magical attacks, but stronger ones. Also allows the skeleton to summon and throw potions of various negative effects on enemies, and the opposite for allies. Fairy. Makes the skeleton tiny and lets it fly. Comes with a wand like the Witch and Wizard, but the magical attacks are smaller and do less damage. Generic Superhero. Grants flight, strength, and laser vision. Spy. Comes with a handful of gadgets like X-ray vision goggles, laser watch, and hover shoes. Pirate. Essentially a retexture of the base Skeleton Warrior. Cowboy. Gun. Cat. Makes the wearer faster and more agile. The skeleton grows ears and a tail made of bone, which doesn't strictly make sense, but I think there are just a couple things higher on the priority list right now than bone cat ears. Clown/Jester. Comes with a random clown-themed weapon, like juggling clubs or an oversized hammer. Robot. The skeleton is coated in metal and given glowing red eyes. They're faster, much stronger, can shoot lasers and electricity, etc. Cyborg. Looks similar to the robot, but with the left side of face, arm, and shoulder exposed. Comes with the extra power of rocket flight. Animatronic. The skeleton is coated in metal, given glass eyes, and put into a metal or plush suit with a powerful jaw. Skeleton. Creates the skeleton squared. Triple the stats, physically stronger, and can summon bones in any shape as physical objects or magical attacks. Whenever a skeleton squared is hit, there's a 50% chance a skeleton warrior with half the normal stats will rise next to it. But that's just the old list of costumes. The list has been expanded to include pretty much anything you'd find at the Halloween Super Tent and more, with absolutely no regard for copyright or power balancing. While the abilities these costumes grant can be extremely powerful, most of them are not unexpected. You know what Spider-Man and Iron Man costumes would do. Though I would like to note that sometimes combination costumes will spawn around the Los Angeles area where the pulse was strongest. Lastly, any group of 25 skeletons can fuse into an imitation of the Skeleton King. This imitation can wear any costume that a normal skeleton warrior can, having potentially disastrous results. Sentient characters. Though it may seem that all the Pulse did to the sentient characters anomaly is make it more common, there's a bit more to it. Now, when the anomaly affects a piece of media, it will pick the character whom is worst for you. Usually the choice will be very straightforward and you'll end up with a villainous character, but not always. Sometimes what's worst for you isn't overt hostility. Shadow creatures. Type: apocalyptic enemies, mini-bosses, or bosses. Shadow creatures are brand new to this world, a byproduct of some mutated earrings. They come in two forms, pure and corrupted. Pure, created when a shadow creature touches someone or something who has fallen. The result is a soulless being of pure shadow, mimicking the body, clothes, items and weapons, and magic of the fallen. They even copy their personality to a small extent. Corrupted, created when a shadow creature touches a living being for more than roughly 4 seconds. As the pitch-black corruption spreads, it will weaken the infected, until a certain point when it'll begin to make them stronger as it influences their actions more and more. The Pumpkin. 73 attack, 27 defense. Health depends on size/number of pumpkins. Type: apocalyptic Halloween enemies. Like everything else, the Pumpkin have received boosted stats, but their main mutation is their new ability to combine with things. Pumpkin. Spicy. When a pumpkin touches fire, a flame roars to life within them, granting them fire breath and bending. Pumpkin. Made when a shadow creature infects a pumpkin. It gains designs all over it in what appears to be shiny black paint, as they gain the ability to bend shadow and make pumpkin-themed constructs of it. Pumpkin Minion. Combining with a skeleton warrior, the skeleton gets a pumpkin for a head as it gets a boost in stats. Pumpkin King. Combining with, an imitation of, the Skeleton King, the king gains a pumpkin head, a black crown, and an intricate black royal cape as it gets a boost in stats and the ability to summon pumpkin minions. Both pumpkin minions and kings come in spicy and punk variants. Pumpkin Smash. An attack that involves smashing a jack-o'-lantern over someone's head. The attack, if successful, will secure itself over whomever it hits and briefly possess them. For the duration of their possession, colored smoke will billow from within the jack-o'-lantern. Flash Sale. Living decorations. Thanks to recent events, you've gotten more bang for your buck on your previously purchased decorations than you, or we, could have ever imagined. But don't get too content now. This once-in-a-lifetime offer is still available. In fact, we at the Halloween Super Tent, in the spirit of this most cursed of days, invite you to come to one of our many infested locations and pick off, pick out whatever you can, free of charge. If you dare. Legal disclaimer. The Halloween Super Tent is not liable for any harm suffered on or as a result of our property. Legal disclaimer. Legal disclaimers are a force of habit now. I am fully aware that they are pointless in light of recent societal collapse. Ghosts. A brand new anomaly. The exact conditions needed for someone who has fallen to become a ghost are unclear, as are exactly what these spirits can do. What I can tell you for certain, though, is that they're out there, and most aren't too happy. The Apocalypse Switch. While the Switch itself has already done its damage, being even remotely near it is still very dangerous. Being the origin of the pulse, around it is what is best described as magically radioactive. The radioactive area should stretch for miles, but the copious amount of defenses in and surrounding the museum housing the Switch absorbed and contained it. Turns out they weren't completely useless after all. Of course, this means getting in there is even more impossible than it was before, but good thing nobody will ever need to again. Act 1, Part 2, Collection. Caspian, 672 attack, 551 defense. 18,234 health. Type, Survivor, Sea Elemental, Informed. Caspian and Nadia stand still in the chaotic night as they take a moment to stare at their creation. A great staircase made of twisted wood leading up to a gateway into the world that should be, made from fusing their mirrors. The gateway framed in the same twisted wood still ripples, distorting the clear night sky behind it. But Caspian and Nadia aren't in the world that should be, they are in the one that is. It would be so easy to fix that, but they have jobs to do. Nadia glares upwards, something disturbing her moment of peace. Caspian snaps out of it too, and with a nod to each other, they set out on their missions. Nadia's job is to make the sinkhole around them into a settlement, and Caspian is tasked with collecting survivors to live in said settlement. Boosting himself out of the hole with jets of water, Caspian immediately comes face to face with a woman with a monitor for a head. Huh, that was easier than expected. She introduces herself as Lauren, 562 attack, 12,526 defense, 2,500 cyber health, type Survivor. Caspian lowers himself back down into the hole and turns to catch Lauren, but as he does, she lands with a heavy, metallic thud beside him. They return to Nadia, who is growing trees and forming them into buildings. She turns around and says, "Did you catch one already?" Great choice of words there. I'll bet she's really comfortable now. I thought it was funny. Well, greetings. I am Nadia. What is your name? Lauren. It is nice to meet you, Lauren. Now, do not take this the wrong way. You can stay no matter what. But what are your powers and abilities? I would like to keep track of everything the settlement is capable of. Yes, I understand completely. I like to keep track of information too. It keeps me calm. I always have full access to the internet. I can sort and compile vast amounts of information in seconds. I am good with puzzles. And just tonight, I've intriguingly gained technokinesis and electrokinesis. I've also been discovering that I have gained various other, smaller powers related to me being a supercomputer of sorts. An impressive resume. I do think I have someone who will get along nicely with you. Void Phone. The suit of purple armor descends on the small downtown shop with the neon eye in the window. This is where she said it would be. It opens the shop door and the phone's presence is instantly felt. Appearing in the doorway of the cramped, dark room coated in curtains and full of trinkets, the armor strolls to the small table sitting in the center of the room. On it rests the Void Phone. The phone is looking a little more transparent than usual. Licks of pure black emit from the dubiously physical surface. After only a second's hesitation, the armor puts a glowing gauntlet into the phone and absorbs it. Not destroying it, but fusing it into the armor. A change to the plan, sure, but a very fitting one. As the armor is about to leave, something that somehow went previously undetected is noticed. A skeleton warrior with a cracked skull and a black cloak stares at the phone thief with glowing white pinpricks. Then, floating, lightly glowing bone spikes fill the little space left in the room and point at the suit of armor. A fatal mistake. The people taking refuge in the bar across the street feel the building rumble as every window in the shop with a neon eye flashes with a blinding purple. Keith, 94 attack, 573 defense, 745 health, type Survivor. After vanquishing the last of the Halloween decorations, Keith and his friend and ally Dave stand in the middle of their empty, eerily silent neighborhood under the dim light of the bright orange moon. Car alarms and the occasional battle can be heard in the distance, but the silence drowns it all out. But after blankly taking it all in, the first thought to take form, of all the things that could possibly come to their minds, is a simple question. where were the pumpkins? Where indeed? Rising above the rooftops as it takes form, a giant crow made of pure pumpkin caws as it lifts itself into the air. It dives directly toward the pair, making them leap to the side as its orange chest barely skims the pavement as it flaps back into the air. Keith and Dave versus Pumpkin Crow. Fight! The pair on the ground glance at each other as they get up. They get the same idea at the same time. Black tubes stretch over Keith's arms as an engine forms on his back. Wires poke out the side of the machine, winding down his shirt and around his arm, connecting to the tubes. Blades shoot like claws from the wrist of Dave's fingerless gloves. They light on fire as he hears Keith's engine roar to life. A mighty wind billows from where Keith's hands just were, keeping the oversized crow at bay, but the energy leaves really aren't making much progress. Dave takes his cue. Slicing the wind with way more style than strictly necessary, the nature of Keith's attack shifts. Keith's leaf blowers plus Dave's flaming swords. Blazing bluster. The wind immediately fills with flame and engulfs the organic beast. But with a loud yet muffled caw, the crow absorbs the fire, evolving. Pumpkin Crow plus fire. Phoenix. But, still made of pumpkin. Oh. Well, that backfired. Keith returns to keeping it at bay with a hearty wind that will hopefully blow out. Oh, another bad idea to the pile, I guess. The phoenix eyes and wings flare as its roar screech is heard for miles. A jet of flame chars the pavement next to Keith and chases him as he moves to avoid it. He has just gotten some distance on it when he fails to jump a fence. Hands not available, he does his best to scramble over as Dave runs to help him. He, personally, is too late. Someone else, however, beats him to the rescue as a man crashes to the ground nearby, his fall broken by a well-timed jet of water. His landing is promptly followed by a large wave sweeping through the street and crashing over the flaming bird. A peculiar bunch. On their way back to the sinkhole settlement, Caspian, Keith, and Dave hear something coming out of an oddly dark alley they just passed. Whipping around and taking their battle stances, they watch four creatures emerge with their hands up. At the back stands a tall, humanoid woman made completely of an ever-shifting, inky black goop. Her only true distinctive feature being her gaping, pure purple eye holes. Over her shoulder floats a translucent, one-armed girl with her clothes stained in red. In other words, a ghost. A long tail replaces her legs and wraps halfway around the Shadow Woman's waist as they both stare at the trio in front of them. The girl's entire body glows lightly, but her pink eyes radiate. In front of them, but significantly to the side, stands a man made of pure, yellowish-white light. All of his discernible features have long since faded into his current mannequin-like body. Now out from the Shadow Woman's cover of darkness, his body illuminates half the block. And finally, leading the group is a perfectly generic-looking human with a sword on their back. The three boys can already feel themselves projecting onto this blank page of a person, and the human feels equally drawn to them. They sense something very familiar watching the trio, and now them too. After a prolonged silence, the human speaks. So, can we join your party? Drop off. Caspian, Keith, Dave, and the peculiar group all finally arrive back at the settlement. The place is quite bustling by now. Bustling for the apocalypse, anyway. There are a little over half a dozen still in the settlement. They've gathered about a dozen in total, but the others escaped to safety through the Great Portal. Keith and Dave break off from the group, needing a breather, and the humans suggest that they split up to cover more ground and save more people. Of course, Caspian agrees, but he's a bit nervous about going out alone again. Fortunately, he doesn't have to. As the four disappear into the night, Lauren comes up behind Caspian. After an unintentional jump scare and a profuse apology, Lauren tells him that they have a job before pointing to a somewhat nearby apartment building. "What's over there?" Caspian asks. "The strongest girl in the city." The lobby. The two enter the dark lobby. They've just decided that it's safer to take the stairs when Caspian feels a chill run down his spine. Whipping around, he sees them. 3 ghosts. 2 with legs and 1 with a tail. It looks like they're hiding from something. The one with the tail floats between the other 2. She's dressed in all black and her makeup follows suit. A shock of pink highlights her hair, the look complete with a spiked choker. Behind her is a man in a tuxedo and a woman with cat ears and a normal tail still in her pajamas. One's clearly the leader. Lauren and Caspian do not go unnoticed. Rolling up her sleeves as she slowly glides toward them, the girl speaks to the others. "Secure the room. I've got these 2. The man and woman immediately comply. The woman is hard to get a read on, but the man looks to be the type not to take orders from who at least looks like a teenage girl, but he begins raising the misty, dark purple barriers nonetheless. With a ghastly, echoing screech, the girl's hazel eyes turn shiny black as streams of an inky substance runs down her face. Lauren is thrown into a pillar while Caspian flails wildly as he is lifted off his feet. The girl forms her arm into a spike and shoves it through Caspian's chest. Her arm, of course, is non-physical. Doesn't mean it doesn't hurt, though. He feels his soul being drained, but the girl is interrupted by her subordinates. "He's here," calls the woman. The girl's reply is in a strange purgatory between a hiss and a shout. "Well then, hold him up." An explosion of light shatters the ghost's barriers and vaporizes the 2 trying to keep them up. With a grimace, the girl yanks her arm out of Caspian's chest as he falls to the ground. Wrapped in a glowing red mist, her hand reforms as she points at the man of ocean as he gets up. Retreating into the shadow as a stray beam of light darts over her shoulder, she delivers a warning. "Don't thank your gods yet, Elemental. Your time draws near." Then she's gone. The man in the hoodie made of light enters the lobby and introduces himself as Damon. He decides to join the other 2 on their mission to get the girl. He lives here anyway. Speaking of the girl, Act 1, Part 3. Kazuki. Kazuki, 5,984 attack, 3,034 defense, 5,324 health, type survivor. Kazuki does not have time for us to go through an entire description. She has some uninvited guests waiting outside. Someone calls through the door that they come in peace. You're not convinced. You've been planning on bailing anyway. You, of course, being her. I have perfectly seamlessly switched person— Wait a second. She can't bail. "Hey, Lauren, would you, A second, more reassuring voice calls through the door, but unfortunately, it's too late. Trust isn't happening. "Just a minute," she calls out, finishing a very brief message to her girlfriend. Shoving her phone back in her pocket, she grabs a couple black metal bracelets from her marble counter, slaps them on, and charges at the already shattered windows. "Lauren, break down the door." Lauren breaks down the door with her impressive robo-strength. Kazuki, however, doesn't have much time to appreciate it, as she has just leaped out the window. She twists around in midair to give the intruders a 2-finger salute as her bracelets expand. Then, she plummets. Intermission 1. Snowy Sky. Outside, a blizzard rages, and the snowy landscape absolutely crawls with creatures of snow. The snow-covered ground cuts off sooner than you'd expect, though, since this chunk of land is floating several miles above where it used to be. Inside, a girl is feverishly trying her best to throw together a teleporter. It's going more slowly than it should due to having to help her dads with the never-ending waves of snow creatures. As she mindlessly barrages the white enemies on the white background with her arm cannon, she can't keep her mind from confronting the fact that this teleporter will by no means be stable. She'll be lucky if it even manages one trip from the middle of Russia to Los Angeles. But she has to get there, even if it means leaving her dads behind to fend for themselves. Resuming Act 1, Part 3. Below, her robotic arms fully formed, Kazuki lands hands first, rolls, and comes to a stop on her feet. She hesitates a second, recovering from that stellar stunt she just pulled off, then absconds. Above, the trio watches in stunned awe as Kazuki absolutely sticks the landing and flees. They all snap to attention as she rounds a corner. Caspian leaps and lowers himself with jets of water. Damon throws an expanding ball of light to the ground as he steps into another, the two acting like portals, and Lauren turns to take the stairs. Around the corner, everything is oddly still. The cool breeze guides a stray newspaper past a skeleton made of shadow standing in the middle of the road. Its inky black bones shine in the light of the almost sunrise as it moves ever so slightly, as if it were breathing. Kazuki takes one step forward, and all hell breaks loose. 24 other skeletons burst from every alleyway and abandoned shop as if the universe or some god laid a trap for her. In the brief moment she has to observe them, she notices some in costume, 2 new ones made of shadow, and one half infected with it. Then they fuse. In just a couple moments, a massive cyborg skeleton towers 6 stories over the already short girl. Nope, not dealing with that. The towering boss fires an oversized shot from its palm as Kazuki spots a flashy sign marking a place to hide. Perfect. She performs a 7 out of 10 dodge roll to evade the blast and makes a mad dash for the pizzeria's doors. 3 more shots follow the first, but she outruns them easily, since it's shooting wherever she is at the moment of firing. Just because it's powerful doesn't mean it's smart. Greg's Ultimate Pizza. Kazuki unnecessarily rams the already shattered door as the great skeleton prepares to crush the place with an oversized arm blade. Arm raised, it gets interrupted by a blast of water to the back of the head. She's barely able to get out a sigh of relief as the great, easily distracted, skeleton turns around before an alarm sounds, red lights flare, and emergency metal barriers cover the shattered doors and windows. Whipping around, she catches a glimpse of glowing hazel eyes and a shock of pink hair darker than her own. When they vanish down into something, she squints to make out the shape of a tentacled beast gleaming ever so slightly in the dim, blinking red as mechanical whirring fills the room. Pizza Kraken. 800 attack, 800 defense. 80,000 cyber health. Type, animatronic, security, mini-boss. A spotlight blinds Kazuki as the alarm halts. There's a moment of silence before a swashbuckling tune kicks up and the battle commences. Above her, metal doors clang, opening a chute. She leaps out of the spotlight to dodge whatever's coming as a perfect pepperoni pizza plops onto the black and white tile floor. Oh, okay, I suppose that makes sense. Kazuki second guesses how difficult this boss fight will be. She's thinking of a way out without damaging this clearly defenseless animatronic as the spotlight moves to the Kraken itself. A compartment below its eyes is revealed as a slice of pizza rockets out. She steps aside, it whizzes by. She returns to the same spot, a second one whizzes by. The third one comes from the left wall, catching her off guard, and mamma mia, that's a sharp slice of za. Definitely tomato sauce trickles down her side as she finally recognizes her foe as an actual threat. The true battle begins. Kazuki versus Pizza Kraken. Fight! A dozen more metal doors clang open overhead, all beginning to dump gallons of piping hot tomato sauce while the restaurant's mood lighting comes on. Kazuki runs along the wall to avoid the rapidly spreading pools on her way to the dining area. As the last clear spots of floor fade, she leaps into a booth. The entire building rattles for no discernible reason as the sauce stops and equally hot cheese begins to ooze from above. She gets on her stomach and reaches for a nearby chair between two cascading columns of cheese. She, of course, is too short to reach it herself, but using her robo-arms, she manages to get a hold of it. With the combined might of her robo-arms and her own incredible strength, she flings the chair through a wall of cheese and into the robot's head. A distorted version of audio damage taken.wav resounds throughout the pizzeria. The cheese drips to a halt as sparks fly and a red mist rises from the area of impact. Tentacles flail wildly as a wet floor sign plops into the middle of the sea of cheese. Sprinklers way more powerful than usual begin to wash away and replace the goopy mess as the fog rolls in. Soon, the water is clean, ankle deep, and almost completely obscured. The artificial rain persists, the Kraken disappears into the fog. 8 tentacles slowly emerge from the fog, surrounding Kazuki's booth. This close, she can see the shiny metal plating periodically interrupted by the segments that allow them to bend. She knows Morgan would love this thing. She backs up to the wall as the tentacles slowly move in. She gets what running start she can on that small table and leaps. For a moment, she thinks she's made it. Then, she feels cool metal wrap around her ankle. They hold her tightly. It doesn't hurt, she's too sturdy for that, but it does keep her restrained. She watches as a net is lowered over the entrance to a room soaked in neon before she's thrown directly into it. Kazuki flies through the net and into the wall with a great thud. The wall does not get out unscathed. Falling to the ground, she frantically struggles and tears her way out of the net, finding herself at the end of a narrow row of arcade machines. Somehow, it's not wet in here. Hair a mess, adrenaline pumping, she stares down a glowing, 3D, pixelated version of her enemy. It floats in front of the exit between her and the real thing. Using her moment of rage, she ignores the weapon provided to her and charges the Pixel Kraken. It barrages her with glowing, pixelated pizza slices. She takes it. With one good running double punch, the Kraken explodes into 100 little yellow cubes as audio deathroarpixel.wav plays over the arcade speakers in record time. Sticking the superhero landing, she scans the dining area. The Kraken has gone back to its stage, but the room remains flooded. She doesn't really think about how to get over there, she just does it. Leaping from table to table, Kazuki keeps her eyes on the prize. She has a score to settle. She springs off the final table, flips, and body slams through a couple tentacles and into the Kraken. An echoing, extremely non-robotic scream fills the pizzeria before quickly fading. And the winner is Kazuki.